Saw this review that was like, I was gonna DNF this book, then I found out all the characters were gay, so I kept reading it. And I mean, if that doesn't sum me up, I don't know what else can. They're literally writing about things that do not exist. You know what I mean? Like, is it that far-fetched that a character is gonna be queer? And I love this book. I live for female rage and just unhinged women. Really entertaining. Oh my god, there's a rabbit. That's my rant over. Got a bit heated there. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Stephanie's Larlin. I'm Stephanie. I decided to bring some fun back into this channel and revive it a bit. I would do a 24-hour readathon because I have so many books on my shelves. I literally counted the other day, it's something like 28 books. They're unread on my shelves, so I have a very extensive physical TBR. So I decided I wanted to work my way through those books. Also, I've seen on BookTube recently that people have been trying to do with the timer method, and it seems like it's actually a better way to do it, because if you've seen my other 24-hour readathons on this channel, I wouldn't stay up all night because I can't do that. I need my sleep. I decided that the timer method would probably work better for me because I can kind of space it out and stop the timer whenever I'm doing something. And I'm also going to be doing exams next week, so I need to make sure I have time to study as well. So let's just get into the TBR I have. Okay, so as of right now, I have 4 books on my TBR. That could change and it could either get smaller or bigger. I'm hoping it gets bigger. Let's start with my current read. I am currently reading a book on my Kindle. I'm not showing you the front because it has the cover on it, because I just figured out like 5 minutes ago how to make my current read my wallpaper. Living for it. Not that I don't like the wallpapers on this, because every time you lock it they change. I'm reading a book on it. I'm 65% of the way through, and that book is Dark Rise by C.S. Pacat. I am liking it. I'm not sure how I'm going to rate it yet. I at first picked it up because I had read another book by this author, another 2 books I think, and I gave them 5 stars. They were more so romance books though, I think. I can't remember, I read them a long time ago, but I've seen a lot of people on BookTube reading this right now, so I just decided to pick it up. Also the cover is like really cool. I'm in love, and the concept of it is actually really interesting. But recently I was going to stop reading it, and then I was looking up reviews to try to convince myself to read it, and I saw this review that was like, I was gonna DNF this book, then I found out all the characters were gay, so I kept reading it. And I mean, if that doesn't sum me up, I don't know what else can. So when I saw that review, I obviously kept reading, and I'm after enjoying it so much more now. I got my hair done, so I was reading it today in the hairdressers, and I was having the time of my life. The plot twists, so good. Like, I was on the edge of my seat, and I'm really excited to jump back into this, and I feel like it will be a quicker read for me just because I have already started it. I'm already, you know, introduced to all the characters and know the world and everything, and I just kind of want to keep reading it and know what happens next. I think that's all I have to say about this book. The next book on my TBR is a book that I got like a long time ago, and it was gifted to me, and I've heard a lot about it. I think it's like an enemies to lovers romance. I tried reading it and I got like 10 pages into it or something, and then I stopped. That book is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. Just know that this book is an enemies to lovers book, and it's like this girl goes and becomes the bride of someone where the brides die every year or something. That could be totally wrong, and I've heard it's really, really good, so I'm hoping it's gonna give me the enemies to lovers romance, like want to keep reading vibes, you know? So that's the next thing on my TBR. It's also not that long, and the font is quite big, which I like. It's about 400 pages, just under 400 pages, so that's good. Then the next book on my TBR, I actually just bought this book, and it was a bit of an impulse buy, but I've heard so much about this book, and I think I actually mentioned it in one of my videos a while ago. Anticipated releases for 2022, possibly, but that could be wrong. But I know I mentioned it on my channel before. That book is Book of Night by Holly Black. I am actually probably the most excited to read this on my TBR right now. And this stunning cover, look at the inside. This is probably really bad, but there you go, that's what the inside looks like. And it says, even your shadow can be stolen. I know like the gist of it. It's something about this girl, Charlie Hall, who like deals with kind of like the black market in this world for gamblers, shadow people, all this kind of like mysterious things, and helps people out with mysterious things because she has this talent or something, or she's good at being like a con woman, something like that. And I know that she ends up getting caught up in more dangerous things, and it's to do with shadows. Like in this world, people have their shadows connected to them, ? Maybe I don't actually know what the premise of this book is. I love the Folk of the Air series. I literally read them so quickly, so I trust in Holly Black. And the last book on this TBR, as of right now, speaking of Holly Black and the Folk of the Air series, I have a new release, which I literally just bought as well the other day. I bought it for so cheap considering it's a hardback. Winning. And that book is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This is supposed to be, I think, like a prequel, but it does say a novella, so never mind, not a prequel. It's like a novella, I'm guessing, about Oak, which, if you don't know, if you haven't read the Folk of the Air series, Oak is one of the main character, Jude's little brother. So it's all about Oak. Read the synopsis of it, obviously, when I bought it, and I got really intrigued because it's kind of when Oak is a bit older, and it also has another character in it, and I think there might be like a little romance in it as well, which is really interesting. But also, I'm just excited to be back in this world. I love the world in the Folk of the Air series, and I read all three of the Folk of the Air series in like 4 days or something. I got them for Christmas one year and I literally ate them up. I read them so quickly. So I'm really excited and hoping that this is a fast read, hence why it's on this list. That is the TBR. I've been talking for way too long now, and we're gonna just start. My mom is the best and she made me a cup of tea. So I'm already prepared. I'm gonna put on my PJs and get the Kindle ready and turn on the timer and get ready for this 24-hour readathon. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so it's actually the next day now, because as soon as I started the stopwatch last night, I ended up watching Dungeons and Dragons with my family. So I obviously didn't get to read. I've been reading for an hour and 5 minutes, and I'm about to have some lunch, but I'm currently 86% of the way through. I'm on chapter 30. It's after getting better. I just realized though as well, I was editing this vlog earlier this morning, and I realized that I didn't mention at all what this book is about. So basically it's kind of set in, I think it's set at the start, like the 1980s or something. That could be really wrong, but something like that. And our main character right here is Will. He's a descendant in this world of this person called the Lady. And it essentially means that he has some type of power. But he doesn't know that until, while on the run from the people who murdered his mother, he ends up going to a place where he meets these people called the Stewards. And it's like a really old magical place full of essentially these kind of soldiers. And so Will goes to the Stewards and ends up working with them and stuff because he's still on the run from the person who killed his mother. And it turns out that the person who killed his mother is really bad, working with dark magic, trying to bring back this dark king. So we kind of just follow Will on his journey along with a few other characters, and yeah, while he tries to save the world essentially. I will say, like I was saying earlier, I originally had picked this up because of the romance. I thought there would be a lot of good romance in it, like a fantasy romance type. But it turns out that there isn't really romance in it at all. Like, it's 85% now, and I've gotten, like, honestly, no romance, to be honest. There's hints of queer characters, which is probably what the person was saying in the review, which I do appreciate, but it's not as central to the story as I thought it would be. But I'm not entirely complaining. I would prefer if it was a bit more central, but in saying that, I really do appreciate the plot, and I think the plot is really interesting. So I do want to finish it and I'll be excited to finish it, but at the minute it's kind of just like around a 3 stars, 4 stars. It's just a bit of a mid book for me. The pacing of it is a bit weird. So it's kind of hard to explain, but sometimes it feels like certain things are happening for convenience and not in the way you would think. Like, we jump into things, like I just read a chapter a couple of chapters ago about a side character, and all of a sudden it's this big story, a part of the plot, but it doesn't really make sense. Like, it's kind of just an odd part of the plot that yes has significance but also isn't that significant, and just the way it was thrown in, it was like just randomly done. I don't know, I just feel like the actual construction of the book is just a bit weird and it's not fully organized correctly, if you get me. So yes, I'm gonna go make some lunch now and then keep reading, and hopefully I'll be back to talk to you once I finish this, because I am dying to start on some of my other books, my TBR. So I'll see you in my next clip with my next book. Okay, I have officially finished the first book of the readathon, which is Dark Rise by C.S. Pacat, and I rated it 3.75 stars. I think earlier I was saying that I was going to rate it either 3 or 4 stars, and I decided to give it a 3.75. I usually don't do my star ratings like that, like in between the whole number rating, but I decided to do it because, one, I think I should actually figure out a proper rating system for my books where I actually, you know, don't just give every book either a 3-star or a 5-star, because that seems to be what I do. And also I need to write reviews. So I did write a small review on this. Like I said in the last clip, which wasn't too long ago, I really like the idea of the plot and I think it has a lot of potential, and it was a really interesting premise and the characters were entertaining, but for me, the fact that there was like no real romance was not a terrible thing, because I was still intrigued and interested in the plot and the characters separately, and the romance was kind of only there the tiniest bit at the end. But also the fact that this plot was there, like I said, and the premise was really interesting, but I think that the execution just wasn't there. I think that's the best way to explain it. Earlier I was saying that how the pacing just felt a bit off, and how sometimes they were scenes and different plot elements put in and it just felt like it was wrong and at the wrong time, and just it wasn't right, or just thrown in there for convenience. But I think that those plot points and the different elements of the story were obviously kind of central to the story and made the story good, but it was just the execution wasn't really there, and it wasn't really constructed in the best way, in my personal opinion. And I've decided that I think because I want a read that's going to be quick and entertaining, and I'm just really excited about this, I decided to pick up The Stolen Heir as my next read. So I'm really excited to dive into this. I get back into this world because I love it so much, and I have a feeling like I'm gonna read this so quickly. I'm gonna go ahead and start with my next read. It is 10 to 10 and I am 3.5 hours into the readathon. So I wanted to give a bit of an update on The Stolen Heir because I'm on page 85. I was going to give an update once I hit the 100 page mark, but I stopped a few minutes ago, so I was like, I'll just give the update now. I think I mentioned that it follows Oak, which is Jude's little brother, but in the story he's actually 17 as of right now. And so far we're following him on a quest alongside a new character that's been introduced who I really like. This girl called Ren. She's 19 and she's the queen of the Court of Teeth. I feel like I should have reread the Folk of the Air series before reading this, just to have the kind of political information and all the courts correctly in my head, but sure, I clearly didn't do that. Ren is the queen of this court, and it's actually the court that was, I think waging is the right word. Is it waging war? Waging war? I think so. On Elfhame during the Queen of Nothing book, which is the last book in the Folk of the Air series. So after the end of the Folk of the Air series, it takes place 8 years later. Ren is a really intriguing character, and she's not what you would expect a queen to be. She's been really mistreated by her so-called family, and she actually lived her childhood up until the age of 9 in the mortal realm. So she had adoptive parents and she was really loved by them, and then all of a sudden one night the folk from Elfhame came back and stole her during the night, because she's actually a changeling. I don't know if I mentioned that either, but she's a changeling. But I will say I'm reading this quite quickly, like I thought I would, and there's just something that Holly Black puts in her writing and in her characters that is just, it's so fascinating to read about. One, her world is just, it's like so cool. It's the coolest thing ever. I love the fantasy world that is in the Folk of the Air realm, and the descriptions are just phenomenal. And I love looking at the artwork as well after I've read the books. I'm really tempted to look at the artwork for this, for the characters, because I have a really bad habit of not being able to visualize a character the way they're supposed to be. I always visualize them just the way I assume straight away. Like Ren has blue skin and Oak has horns. I can't visualize that, so I need to see like the fan art first, but when I do that it usually spoils the book, which I obviously do not want. The relationship between Oak and Ren so far as well is really interesting, because they kind of just have this interesting dynamic and they're really cautious around each other, but also have these previous opinions of each other. So it's just really, really interesting. I also think that it's so great how in all of Holly Black's books that I've read so far, which is literally just the Folk of the Air series and this, she does this thing where even though you're following these characters in a fantasy realm and everything is very fantastical and made up, the emotions and the things that the characters go through are quite realistic, and I think that's what draws me to her books a lot, especially just the fantasy genre as a whole. I love when characters are going on these quests and everything's really magical, but it's also, they have inner turmoil as well, and they're just a normal person at the end of the day, and the author doesn't shy away from explaining that and talking about that. Love that so much. Also, another just minor detail that I just love about Holly Black's books. In Holly Black's books, the fantasy world has all these fantastical things, and then it also has things that are normal, like queer relationships. And in other fantasy books I've read, they can have all these fantastical elements and these made up creatures and everything, but the people in them can't comprehend queer characters, and that really pisses me off, to be quite honest. Like, I hate when it's like the author can't be bothered to put in diverse characters when they're literally writing about things that do not exist. You know what I mean? Like, is it that far-fetched that a character is going to be queer, right? It just really annoys me. But anyways, it's something that Holly Black does not do, and she does it really well, where she just integrates them in a natural way, which is true to life. You know what I mean? Been rambling on, but I'm really enjoying this book. I think that I'm so far at a rating of 5 stars. Is that a bit too hasty to say? I'm not even 100 pages through, but I really, really, really am loving this, and I'm so glad I picked it up. It is wonderful, and I'm living for the tension and kind of like angst between our two main characters, Ren and Oak. Like, give me more. It's so good. I'll talk to you all in the morning with another update. Okay, hello. I don't think I've updated today at all, But it is Saturday today and I've just been reading mostly all day, so I'm on the 6th hour of this readathon. It's honestly going much slower than I thought it would. I don't know why. I've been reading The Stolen Heir and I love this book. So I'm literally almost done. I'm over the halfway point. I only have this little bit left and I'm on chapter 12, which is page 227. And it's just so good. Like, it's so good. I'm just so obsessed. I'm so obsessed. I think I was talking about it last night and I was obviously only 100 pages through last night when I was talking about it. But everything I said still stands and I just love Holly Black's writing. I love the world of fairy and just Elfheim and everything. All the political intrigue is just great. I just also realised one thing I absolutely adore about Holly Black's books, but also just the fairy world that she's created, is that fairies can't lie. I don't think she's created that, like, surely not, but fairies can't lie, and I just think it's such an interesting plot element and it makes things so much more angsty and it's just great. There have been developments in the plot and we're after finding out more about not only Oak's plans but also Wren's past life. I'm living for Oak and Wren and their dynamic, like I said, and there's just nothing like a Holly Black book. I actually don't know what else to say. I just forgot how much I loved these books. The thing is, I do love it so much, but the last time I read it, I tried to reread it and annotate it, and because I was rereading it, I was realizing that the first book can be quite slow when you already know how great it can be in the rest of the series, if you get what I mean. But this, because it's a new concept and a new story, I'm like straight away diving into it and I don't know what's going to happen next, so obviously I'm enraptured in it, like the way I was the Folk of the Year series the first time I read it. I'm just in love with it. Like, it's so good, and I know once I finish it I'm gonna want the next book, because I didn't realize, I think it's a duology. I have the dust jacket because who reads their hardback books with dust jacket on? Not me. Yeah, it's the first book of a captivating new duology. I didn't realize that it was going to be a duology. I thought it was just a standalone. So I know once I read this I'm going to want the next one, and obviously this literally just came out, like, I think it was like a month ago or something, so I know the next book will not be within my reach for a long time, which is very annoying. I kind of wish I started annotating this as well, but also I feel like this I won't mind rereading because it feels like the pacing is a bit better than Cruel Prince, really. I'm talking about the first book in the series. As of right now, it's, like I said earlier, it's 5 stars. Like, there's nothing in it that I don't particularly like. I am going out tonight, so I don't know how much more I'll get read. It is currently 4 o'clock on the dot. I probably can get this all read and finished before I leave, so that would be absolutely wonderful. Also, I'm starting to realize, considering I'm only 4 hours into this readathon, I could potentially add more books to my TBR. Well, actually, in saying that, I do have 2 more books left. Love Holly Black. She is the queen of fantasy. That is what she is. Hello besties. So it's actually the next day now. I didn't end up getting to finish The Stolen Heir before I left last night, but it is currently 8 hours and almost 10 minutes into this readathon, and I finished my second book and I gave it 5 stars. Like I was saying earlier, the ending was so good. I live for female rage and just unhinged women. I don't really have much to add. I just think that Holly Black is just an incredible author, and she has such a great talent for, one, creating worlds that are so fantastical and interesting and just make you want to live in them, but also she has such a good talent for creating such 3-dimensional characters that have incredible depth and vulnerability, and the way she writes them is just so honest and truthful. I don't know how to explain it properly and articulate my thoughts correctly, but I'm just in love with the way she writes her characters and writes her stories. And just as well, the political drama in this was really interesting, and the different plot twists at the end, superb. Loved that. I did not see it coming, and it was just fabulous. Also, I think that I prefer this new kind of series duology more than the Folk of the Air series, or, well, most of it anyway, because I do love that series, but there's just something about this. I don't know what it is. It's so good. It's so good. Not to say that the other series isn't good, but then even when I'm saying that, I'm like, no, but I love Jude and Carden, but I just love Ren and Oak as well. Oh, I love them so much. Anyways, I'm gonna shut up talking about this now, but 5 stars, so good. Read it if you haven't already. Like, it's incredible. I have 2 books left on my TBR. That is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh, and then another Holly Black book, Book of Night. So I think I might go with The Wrath and the Dawn, just because I'm just after reading a Holly Black book. And also, this has really small font, but I think I might start with this because, like I said, I just read a Holly Black book and I think it might be a bit lighter on the reading, and also the font is much bigger. But I am excited for this one because, like I said, I did start this already. I didn't really give it enough of a chance. Ooh, it has a map. I didn't realize it had a map. I didn't really give it a chance, to be quite honest. So yeah, I'm hoping that I'll be good. And then, considering I'm only 8 hours into this readathon, I think I could read these 2 and another book potentially. But also, in saying that, I was looking back at my footage and I realized that yesterday before I left, when I was updating the vlog, I said that I was 4 hours into the readathon, I think, and I was on page like 230 or something like that, and I only had a little bit left as it's still in there, like 150 pages, and it took me 4 hours to read those. I don't know, that feels like a long time. But maybe I won't get more than these 2. This is gonna be my next read. Hopefully it's good, and hopefully I read it quickly. But yeah, that's all for my update. Good morning, everyone. It is 20 to 10 right now, and I've already started reading this. I literally just had my breakfast and was reading this. I didn't update much at all last night when I was starting this book, and as you can see, I'm literally almost finished. It's so good. This readathon is bringing me so many good books and I'm loving it. Yeah, so I'm gonna just share a few of my thoughts right now, because probably the next time I update, I will probably be finished it. And also, I do have quite a lot of study to do today because I have an exam tomorrow. So I don't think I explained the concept of this book because I didn't know what it was about. I was right to say that it was an enemies to lovers romance. It's about this girl called Shazzy, or Sharzad. I think that's how you say her name. I really hope that I'm saying it correctly. There is a glossary in here, which is so helpful for me, but there isn't a glossary for the names. So Shazzy is our main character, and she's 16, and basically she ends up volunteering herself to marry the king. The king is an 18-year-old boy king called Khalid, or Khalid, not sure which one. For the past few months, he has been taking a new bride every night, and she does not live until sunrise. As we learn in the prologue, there's some sort of prophecy and repentance that he's doing for someone he killed. So for one life, he has to give 100 lives. He's almost at that 100 mark when Shazzy's best friend, Shiva, is one of the brides, and obviously does not last the morning, so she ends up dying. So Shazzy volunteers herself because she's determined to last until the sunrise and to kill the king, which is so intriguing. Like, we love a good murder plot with so much romance involved. Living for it. As of right now, she's figured out her way to last until the sunrise. I'm not going to say much more because I don't want to spoil it, but her and Khalid's, I think it's Khalid,
her and the king's relationship is just, oh, it's so good. Their dynamic's so good. Like, oh my God, living for it. I will say that sometimes when I'm reading this, I feel like there's stuff left out, and not in the general way of when obviously like plot details out in order to bring them back into the story later for a plot twist. Not in that way, more so in the way of it feels a little unedited sometimes. It feels like there are scenes missing and that us as readers don't know certain elements of the story that feel like we should know, that I feel like we should know. If that makes sense, it's kind of hard to explain. But other than that, I'm loving the characters. They're really entertaining. Oh my God, there's a rabbit. Sorry. Characters are really entertaining, and the plot itself is such an interesting idea. I love it. I think I'll probably rate it, as of right now, I'm thinking a 4-star. I have a feeling like I might want to dive right into the next book and read it on my Kindle, considering how quickly this is taking me to read through. So that might be an option. From Perfect Paperbacks gifted me this book, so I just wanted to mention that because I don't think I mentioned it earlier. The cover's so beautiful. Who does not want to see a beautiful woman on the cover of a book? Go, and I'm actually gonna stop reading this for a little while and study because I need to do that. But once I come back, I'll probably have finished this, and I'm very, very excited to finish it.
Hello, everyone. We are getting closer and closer to the finish line. It's 19 hours and 17 minutes into this readathon. I'm getting a bit fed up, I won't lie. I have a few reading updates, and I think that this might be my last update until I hit the 24-hour mark. I decided to pick up 2 books because I've been reading so many books in such a short period of time. I'm just getting a bit burnt out a little bit. So I decided to pick up Book of Night, which was on my original TBR. I'm currently 62 pages in, and it's okay so far. Hasn't really grasped my attention that much yet. I'm just not really vibing with it right now. Could be because it's an adult fantasy book, but it also could be just for the past few days I've been used to reading like YA fantasy books with romance, which is why I decided to pick up a book that I've been recommended for ages by M from Perfect Paperbacks, which I've mentioned in this video already. And that book is Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I'm 44% of the way through this. I could possibly finish it within this 24-hour readathon, but that might be a bit of a stretch. I'm sure if you've seen other book channels, you'll know what this book is about. It's about these 2 people who used to be in a relationship, Magnolia and BJ. We're not even going to talk about how horrid his name is. Let's not even get onto that. Basically how toxic they are for each other because they used to be together for a really long time. They were childhood lovers, and then all of a sudden her boyfriend BJ did this horrible thing to Magnolia and they broke up, but they're still really codependent, sleep in the same bed, stuff like that. So there's loads of tension in between them, and they do things deliberately to hurt each other. So BJ sleeps with a bunch of other girls and flaunts them in front of Magnolia, and Magnolia gets all these fake boyfriends, well, not fake boyfriends, but boyfriends that aren't really real boyfriends, flaunts them in front of BJ, all that kind of stuff, making each other jealous. At first I was really hooked into the 2 of them and liked their dynamic, and it was addictive to read, which it kind of still is, but like you would expect, this book isn't the best crafted book, and usually sometimes I can look past that, but I think I'm beginning to realize that I'm not the type of person who can actually just read like trashy books and just deal with it. Like I don't really like that. Like if I don't like a certain aspect of a book, I'm not going to keep going. That's just the way I am. I'm probably just really snobby with my reading taste. One of the few things that's really annoying me in this book is, one, the actual crafting of this book is just not done well. Like it's not written well. There's weird like grammar mistakes, bad grammar, to be honest, bad grammar. That's what I was trying to get at. Also, I understand that they're rich people and the author is trying to portray that straight from the get-go, and it's kind of supposed to read like your diary type thing. There is an oversaturation of descriptions of outfits that are extremely like couture and designer outfits with all these brands. Like I could not tell you what half of them are or what they're supposed to look like. For the first few times, okay, fair enough, We're setting the scene, letting our readers know that our main character has an interest in fashion and knows a lot about it, and also making sure the readers know that these people are extremely wealthy. Fair enough, but almost 50% into the book and you're still giving me such detailed descriptions of these outfits and who designed them and like what season they were from. Like, I do not give a shit. Like, I'm sorry, it's confusing me and it's just really annoying. Sorry to get heated, but it's really annoying. The names in this book, it's not just in this book as well, because also when I was reading Book of Night, Charlie, the main character, her sister is called, it could be Posse, it could be Posy. Like, sorry, what the hell? Makes no sense. The spelling of it's really weird. I don't know. I think I'm just getting to a stage where I'm really getting annoyed with when authors decide to create all these really unique names just to be different. Like, it's so annoying. Just pick a generic name, nobody cares, you know? And I know that might sound really obnoxious, but say for example, Rathlin Dawn, there were names in it that I didn't recognize, but they're still regular names in that culture. They're totally fine. I like reading with characters of those names because it lets me expand my knowledge of other cultures. I can recognize that those names, they're unfamiliar to my ears, but they're not to the people who up with those names, or those names are in their heads. Do you know what I mean? Or their friends have those names. It's the same with Irish names for me. Like, some people find it really difficult to pronounce the name Sive, but I know that Sive is spelt that way because that's the way it follows with the language rules, and that's an Irish name, you know? And I can appreciate those. But when it comes to shit like BJ Ballantyne, like, I'm sorry, the wordplay is too much. There is no need for the name to be so complicated. His name, broken down name, I don't know what you would call it. It's like Baxter or something. Like, just call him Baxter. That's an already unique enough name to be like, oh, call him Baxter. Like, I don't understand why you're calling him BJ. And Valentine, like, just call him Valentine if you want to do that wordplay thing. I don't know, it just really annoys me. It really, really annoys me that authors are just trying to make their name so unique. Like, I get it in like fantasy worlds and stuff. Okay, sorry, that's my rant over. Got a bit heated there. My next update will probably be once I have hit the 24-hour mark and hopefully finished Magnolia Parks. I'm literally only here for the few moments of angst that I like. It's reminding me why I only like really, really, really specific romance books.